Greetings everybody, it's Jim. I'm just about to head out to Gen Con, and if you're going there, by the way, check out booth 338, and even if you're not, use those QR codes right now and request your free fantasy RPG map, the digital version. The physical version you can get at Gen Con. Believe me, those things are like gold. And you can also get your free Richard III Steam video game, a $35 value for free. Check out what Block Wargaming is like for free by using that QR code. Now, Heresy has been really good. It's a fantasy trip zine, if you don't know already. A few thousand downloads already on it for number 1 and number 2. Number 1, number 2. There you go. And now I'm working on number 3, and it's almost done. I got a few more, maybe people will come in, maybe it'll fill out with more artwork because there's a few things that are really going to be cool in it. So let's talk about Heresy number 3. By the time you're watching this video, I will have launched my Kickstarter double feature for 12 Parsecs and Songs of the Smokewater, $3 for each or $5 for both. 12 Parsecs is a nice little dice rolling spaceship combat exploration game I think you'll like, but majority of you, because you're here for Heresy, will really appreciate Songs of the Smokewater. If you enjoyed my Labyrinth Encounter cards for the fantasy trip from Steve Jackson Games, Songs of the Smokewater are going to be something you're going to want to dive into as well. It is tavern encounters, and they're a little bit different than normal. They're a lot more expanded than the Labyrinth Encounter cards. They don't fit on regular cards. I was thinking about making them on 3.5 paper, but these actually expanded out to the point where I'm printing this. Well, it comes as a PDF, but you can get it printed just as you would Heresy in the 8.5 by 5 by 5 type format. So it's going to be a nice little 40-page book just like Heresy. All right, everybody. Now, I don't have a lot of artwork here yet because I got to place, you'll see as we go through that I have to place a few things, but the artwork I do have is pretty phenomenal. And the artwork I got coming in is going to be phenomenal too. I'll get into why in a little bit. But our cover is graced by none other than Dan Smith, and a lot of you would know who he is. Car Wars, GURPS, Silent Death. I mean, the guy's ink is made of testosterone, okay? Adrenaline flows in this guy's veins while I swear heavy metal's playing in the background or something like that. I mean, maybe actual heavy metal, maybe just the movie, the animation, maybe. I don't know. This guy gets it. I love his stuff. Now, next is really cool too. This is made by Anthony Shostak, and this picture is an idea of another angle of the death test. And the reason Anthony did this is because he wanted to make a homage to Pat Hitty. All right, and that everybody loves Pat Hitty's artwork because, I mean, it just feels like the old school gritty style that Dungeons & Dragons should be, in my opinion. Fantasy should be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with anything that anybody likes, but just this is Dungeons & Dragons to me. This is Fantasy Trip to me. This is 1980s Conan, and it's everything, right? And I definitely like it. I am going to be contacting Anthony to make more of this stuff, and I'm going to try to pay him. He doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to be like, look, man, you want to make some for one of my projects, because I got a project coming up for a fantasy setting based on the fantasy trip. It's going to be a more generic setting, but I mean, it's going to be good, and I think I want some of Anthony's artwork in it. Now, next thing is that a list of experiments is a little bit not true. Halfway it is, but let's just look at it. The Mechanician's Workbench, the first one by Jim Deermeyer. Okay, he gets the first billing here, other than Pat Hitty's thing, but it's the first article is by Jim here, and he comes up with a couple of gadgets, 2 of them, and they're really kind of cool. He's got a good background to all of it, a little bit of fiction in there, and talks about a new thing called gadget reliability, and I like this because I always want something for the mechs to do. You know, it's like Wizards get all the stuff, but this adds something in gadget reliability, and you have to roll every time you use it, and then it can break down. It can be fixed, but you got to spend some time to do it. So it's kind of pretty cool. It's kind of like a reusable spell that can be broken, and then it has its own thing as opposed to spells that you have to rest. You know, this can make for more powerful items, but that can, break down. Maybe you just can't use it for a long time, depending on how far you are away from your workbench. First off is the Grapple Apple, which is basically, it looks like an apple, you throw it, and it's a grappling hook, basically. It's got a few extra uses too, but he'll get into that when you can read it. Then he's got the Seeker, small little wind-up devices that'll work in conjunction with small stones. You can read about that one too, so it's kind of cool. And so those are the 2 gadgets he's got this time around, and he drew these by himself, by the way. Well, now we're going to talk about a big one here, and this is Harn World in TFT. For those of you who don't know, Harn World is the fantasy setting that's been around since the 80s. That's about medieval accuracy. Matter of fact, that map that I told you about earlier, that's for a free download, that's Harn World. That beautiful map drawn by Robin Crosby, known as one of the most beautiful maps of all time. On the back of that PDF, or I should say the second page of the PDF, is a small primer about Harn World in general. And there are other things that you can get. You go to the Columbia Games website, and there are little other primers about kingdoms. There's 2 kingdom samplers, and they're big samplers too. They're like 32-page, 40-page samplers on the Kingdom of Caldor and the Kingdom of Meldrin, the Wizard's Isle. Check out for those. Now, he talks about character creation, especially about the Harnic orcs, because Harnic orcs are different than regular orcs. They're called the Gargoon, so you definitely, or Gargun, I should say, definitely something you want to take a look at. And then and Giants, which are a playable race, which back then meant something. Now a lot of people are making playable races. Actually, the Fantasy Trip was one of the first to actually do something like that I knew of. Now, they also have the birthrights, parentages, because that's a big thing in medieval society. And one of the things he does here is also make priests and theologians. They modify a few of the skills, because priests are a lot different, and you'll find out here about spells too, a lot different in Harn World than it is in your regular, like in the Fantasy Trip, okay? Not that you couldn't do that by yourself as a game master, but this definitely has to happen, because priests and theologians are a big deal in the world of Harn. Now, of course, they changed things about naturalists, herbalists, and apothecaries, and the thing is, we're going to have a few sample herbs here, and I know going to have permission from Columbia Games to do this, so that's okay. These are actually in Harn World as well, but this is based off of a translation to Fantasy Trip, because we want you to see, I do want you to download that map. I do want you to get those kingdom samplers, but also this should get you in the door too. So we definitely want to show you as much Harn as possible. So check out these herbs, they're pretty cool. Game modifications, one of the biggest ones is illusions don't exist in Harn. The way that the system works, the illusions as described in the Fantasy Trip, they don't exist on Harn. That'll be one of the biggest differences as far as magic goes. There are going to be some armor and weapon restrictions and armor and weapon changes, just to make it feel more like the Harn World setting. And they got healing potions a little bit different in a rewarding experience. Then when it comes to adventuring, they have a few tables here to help you with different types of encounters that you might more prominently see in the Harn World setting, and then a few tavern rumors as well. Something that I think anybody who's ever wanted to try the Fantasy Trip with Harn as a combo setting. T. Carter Ross graces us with his presence again. Last time he gave us a nice little pirate ship, and this time he's going to give us a little jewelry store with one of the wildest titles I think I've ever read. First off, is Jewelry of a Van Zeen style in Olan Pak. Wow. Well, the old Van Z is their mines, the Van Z mines. So it's there. It'll explain what these things are. And Olan Pak is a place, of course, and there's tax collectors that are very keen to unpunished, unlicensed, and untaxed transactions. So, characters saying they want to be working for the IRS in the Fantasy Trip. So he's got a few, just like before, he has a few extra characters for you, and he's going to give you a lot of good little side quests to get in trouble with. Now, one of my first of 2 articles that I've got here now, this one's going to stay in no matter what. The second one will stay in if I don't receive anything else to replace it by the time I get back from Gen Con, or somebody telling me they've got the work's coming along. Lightening the load. Now, the thing is, I sent this to Steve a little while ago, and was almost published in Heresy, but he put it into something else. So, published into Hexagram, I should say. And the funny thing is, it's very similar to what came out with Shadow Dark later on. So the funny thing is, great minds must think alike. But the idea is, I thought of Steve's Car Wars, the original game Car Wars, and they used something. They didn't have weights, right? But they wanted to do something that you can only carry so many items. So what's the better way to do it? He used grenade equivalent. So basically a pistol would be one grenade equivalent, something as big as that, a gun, a hand grenade, a book, that's one grenade equivalent, a rifle, two grenade equivalents, right? And so on and so forth. So I went on that idea, and the numbers worked out really well. So the thing is, like, we'll look at the encumbrance chart here, and if you have a certain strength, that's how many units of you can carry. That's what I call them, units. I call them sword equivalents, so I'll just call it units to make it simpler. But you can carry, with no penalty, equal to your strength. It worked out really nice that way. And then you have to modify past that. Then you get your negatives to movement, dexterity, and so on. Really worked out real well. And I've also got the I gotta fix these charts up here, but I got the charts of what the things would cost. And trinkets are special. They're labeled as a T, and what those are is basically you could just carry like 5 of them. Okay, 5 of any trinket, and that equals a unit. So it can be broken down just a little bit further. I think it's 5, or might be 4. I actually forget. It's been a while since I actually looked at that, but it's a pretty cool system, and I liked it a lot. And I think, quite honestly, before I get into TFT, the Triplanetary here, quite honestly, when I came out with this, I was also thinking, what was I thinking? I had it on my mind, and now I'm losing it. Oh yeah, the scale of GURPS. Oh, okay, we were talking about that video, the scale of GURPS, right? Before, where you had the Fantasy Trip, which is a squad level game, and GURPS was like 1 to 3 characters aside, to make the combat a little bit smoother. It doesn't work like 4 to 6. It breaks down a little bit. People have done it, don't get me wrong, and they've probably done it because they know the system real well. But by default, it works. GURPS is 1 to 3 people, and the Fantasy Trip is 4 to 6. And I'm going to be doing a video on the the Lords of Underearth that actually go one scale past that, which I really wish that they would. You're going to want that, by the way. If you can find a Lords of Underearth, I'll tell you right now, you want it because it makes it to a further scale. I'll get into that later. But anyway, the bottom line is here, GURPS actually, this lightning to load, I do believe that this weight distribution method is what the Fantasy Trip should be using by default. Now, the reason they didn't do it is because it came out first, before GURPS. See, GURPS goes down into the minutia of things, right? Not just the combat system, but they would be more apt to use exact poundage. While when you go up to the squad level, which is the Fantasy Trip or Dungeons and Dragons, those would use this kind of method where it's broken down more into a Diablo PC game type putting things together, just a little bit easier, right? And it works, and that's why I really like this system. Now, anybody that's a fan of Triplanetary, which is a space game, a classic space game, is really good. And I was playing it, and Steve Jackson Games brought it back, so and got the license for it. So I started playing it, and they were talking about boarding parties, and I said, well, TFT could do a boarding party, I bet. Granted, all I've seen so far is fantasy, and there were a few articles in Interplay or Space Game or what have you about everything from superpowers to lasers and stuff, so why not see what happens. Now, the thing is, I did the best thing that I could possible to make this so we can have that transition, so I can have any kind of campaign I wanted to, not just fantasy, but maybe even up to modern times, and up to basic space, nothing too complex, but if I want to put a space laser in there, a force sword, and maybe a personal shield, energy shield, we could, right? But what was the best way to do that? Well, the simple thing is, the work's already been done because it was done in GURPS a long time ago. So just translating that from GURPS to TFT should be relatively easy. Now, the challenge was not to take everything from GURPS, again, because of the scale, and I think I might actually have to do some work on this before. So you might find this in issue number 4, because when I made it, I got rid of things, but I also kept a few things because they're talking about, you'll see it here in a little bit, because it's the special abilities to the guns, because I wanted every gun to be more than just, or the basics of the gun, not every single gun. I just have pistol. I just have rifle. I just have laser rifle. You know, I don't go out like GURPS does and make the like 5 different types of manufacturers for each gun or something like that. But basically, I wanted to keep it as real as possible from GURPS because I know that their numbers are accurate. So things like a machine gun, spraying fire, suppression fire, reloading, ammunition's going to be a thing. I mean, it is for arrows, right? And which I found out while I've been playing TFT for the longest time. I really underestimated the power of, you know, you get used to playing these games that let you just shoot as many arrows as you want, but those are balanced, right? For not even reality, just for the game, right? So you can shoot every turn, so people can't, you know, they can be an archer, but yet they can shoot every turn because that's their thing. While in the fantasy trip and even Dungeons and Dragons, it's like, no, only got so many. So, you know, because they are pretty powerful. You know, if you've ever shot a crossbow a few times, you probably already know that. But I got the minimum strength here, range, and then we got the firearm descriptions. But here, as we can see here, I got reflex armor and stuff like that. We got the basic firearms and what their damage is, energy weapons, exotic missile weapons that I thought were cool. I always liked the Tangler and the Needler. That was from Star Frontiers from TSR. Loved that. Or at least I love the world setting of it. I don't know about the game if that really worked out that well. And then we got grenades, flamethrower, of course, stun wands, a viral blade, a force sword, and we got different types of armor. I like the one that's an energy veil. I kind of made that one up myself a little bit because I wanted something that was like Dune, right? HTH, hand-to-hand weapons do full damage and energy weapons are just negated. So you can do those running through if you're playing spaceship combat, so it's not just a fire fest. So you can have some, melee combat in there as well. And the final one to come in is the Cursed Cookie Box from Roger LaRue. I like it a lot. It's good as I think my default thought is it's going to be a little bit lighthearted. It doesn't necessarily have to be. Things can definitely happen, but it's a Cursed Cookie Box. Basically, whoever opens it up sees 6 delicious cookies, and then if they eat them, it's like they're on crack. And 6 new ones appear every day at noon, and as long as the owner has one, they're satisfied. But the problem comes down to is if they give their cookies to anybody else, and they're going to want them. They're going to be like, these smell fantastic. Anybody within the area, is going to want one, and they be rather insistent, especially if they have ever had one. Then they're going to suffer withdrawal symptoms, as you can imagine. This one's going to be pretty interesting for some game masters that want to cause some chaos, maybe a side quest, and who knows what kind of problems they'll occur because of this. Anyway, guys, that is what I got for Heresy number 3 right now. There might be some more articles. I'll switch in and out. Definitely some artwork from Harmworld in there from probably Richard Luschek, I'd imagine. And I will see you guys hopefully at Gen Con, but if not then, till next video.